Dear students, myself Maruti SM. I am discussing the topic on meaning, definition and nature of chi-square test. It is included in the syllabus of BBA, Techniques for Business Decision 2, 6th semester. So, chi-square test is a non-parametric test. Chi-square test is a non-parametric test. It is developed in the year 1945. After 1945, that non-parametric test comes to be used widely, organized in sociological, psychological research. Non-parametric tests today are very popular in behavioral sciences. The following three reasons accounts for the increasing use of non-parametric tests in business research. These statistical tests are distribution free, can be used with any shape of a population's distribution. They are usually compulsorily easier to handle and understand than parametric tests. That they can be used with a type of measurement that prohibits the use of parametric tests. So, in case of chi-square test, in this slide, it includes the introduction of chi-square test, meaning of chi-square test, definition of chi-square test, nature of chi-square test. So, the learning objectives of this session is these concepts help the students to be familiarized with the term chi-square test. It is also called as x square, x to the power of 2. This helps a student to understand the concept of chi-square test. Session outcome. By the end of this session, the student should be able to understand the concept of chi-square test. Students should also be able to express their opinion regarding the chi-square test. So, chi-square test introduction. An appropriate statistical test among varieties of statistical tests that are available for analyzing a given set of data is selected on the basis of a scale of measurement of the data, dependence and independence of the measurement, number of population being studied, specific requirements such as sample size, shape of population distribution. The chi-square test is one of the simplest and widely used non-parametric tests in statistical work. It symbolizes as x square in the graphs. It is to be introduced by Carl Pearson in the year 1990. The quantities of x square distribute the magnitude of the discrepancies between theory and observations. So, the chi-square test distribution is the test is one of the non-parametric category of the test or methods to test the hypothesis. A symbol x is the Greek letter chi, that a test for establishing the association between two categorical variables. The chi-square test, an appropriate statistical test among varieties of statistical tests that are available for analyzing a given set of data, is selected on the basis of scale of measurement of the data, dependence and independence of the measurement, number of populations being studied, specific requirements such as sample size, shape of population distribution. A chi-square test is also called as a x-square test. It is one of the non-parametric categories of this test, methods to test the hypothesis. The symbol x square is a Greek letter chi, the test for establishing an association between two categorical variables. What is chi-square test? There are two types of chi-square test. Both uses the chi-square statistics and distribution of different purposes. A chi-square goodness of fit test determine if the sample data matches a population. A chi-square test is independence, compares the two variables in a contingency table to see if they are related. In a more general sense, it is test to see whether the distribution of categorical variable differ from each other. Then what is chi-square test? Chi-square test is statistics, a test that measures how a model compares to actual observed data. The data used in calculating a chi-square statistics must be random, raw, mutually exclusive, drawn from the independent variable and drawn from a large enough sample. For example, the result of tossing a fair coin meet these criteria. Chi-square tests are often used in hypothesis testing. The chi-square test compares the size and discrepancies between the expected results and the actual results, given the size of sample and the number of variable in a relationship. It must be expressed as the chi-square test, that is x square is equal to sigma O minus E square divided by E, whereas O refers to the observed frequencies and E refers to the expected frequencies. Observed frequency, it is given in your problem or it is given in a particular variable. Out of this we expect or we are calculating the expected frequencies. The steps for determining the chi-square test is the properties which is first introduced by the Carl Pearson in the year 1900. In this context, it is an important to improve a distribution between the test of statistics and its distribution name is similar to Pearson's x squared test and or statistics are used. Definition of chi-square test: a statistical devices or a statistical test. It categorical data evaluate how likely it is that any observed differences between a set arises by chances. It is the most widely used in many chi-square tests, say Yates, Likewoods ratios, time series, etc. Statistical procedures whose results are evaluated by references to the chi-square distribution. Properties of the chi-square test. Chi-square is a non-negative, is the ratio of two non-negative values, therefore must be non-negative itself. Chi-square is a non-symmetric. There are many different chi-square distribution, one for each degree of freedom. The degree of freedom when the working with simple population or a single population variances, that is n minus 1. The degree of freedom is nothing but while comparing the calculated value of x square test with the table value, we have to calculate the degree of freedom. The degree of freedom we means the number of clauses to which the values can be assigned arbitrary or at it will be results in valuing the restrictions or limitations placed. Therefore, in case of chi-square properties, since the chi-square distribution is not as symmetric, the methods for looking up left trial values different from methods for looking up right trial values. Area to the right, just use the areas given. Areas to the left, the table requires the areas of right, so subtract given area from 1 and look this area up in the table. The area in both trial, divide the away by 2, looking up this area, the right critical value and 1 minus this area or left critical value, that means nothing but V, nothing but value of freedom, or the degree of freedom is considered as a value means V. V equals n minus k or V equals n minus x square. This is the formula for degree of freedom. Application of x square test, nothing but chi-square test. A few important applications of x square or chi-square test discussed as follow: test of independence, test of goodness to fit, 8 correlations for continuity, test of population variances, test of homogeneity. So this is about the first topic or the introduction of a chi-square test.